All right, so here we go, guys. It is time for Cloudy with a Chance of Learning, and today we have a really fun segment. We're doing one of our field trips again, this time to the Witte Museum, and we have a special guest, Dr. Thomas Adams, who is the curator of paleontology and geology there at the museum. Welcome, Dr. Adams.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing great, and I understand you have something really cool for us today, but before we get too much into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and about what you do at the museum.
All right, so I'm a paleontologist, a vertebrate paleontologist, and I've been doing that for about 25 years. And here at the Witte Museum, I'm the curator of paleontology and geology, and what that means is I oversee our fossil and gem and mineral collection. I also oversee content for our exhibits as well as our public programs, and I also do paleontology research. So I actually go out and excavate fossils and study them as a scientist. And
Okay.
you know, it's a fun job. It's the best job you can have in the world.
Nice, very cool. And with paleontology, you know, what are you doing there at the museum as a paleontologist?
Well, here I act as a professional in my field to give all the background information, make sure that all the facts that we give here in the museum are correct, as well as help in design and content of some of our exhibits that deal with dinosaurs. And who doesn't love dinosaurs?
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
why we're here today to talk about some of our new dinosaurs.
Nice, very cool. And you know, a lot of the kids, I'm willing to bet, are going to be wondering, what is a paleontologist? You know, what does a paleontologist do? Could you just explain that a little bit more for them?
Sure. Yeah, you bet. So a paleontologist is a scientist who studies ancient life, studies the past, by looking at fossils. And fossils are the remains of any organism, whether it's an animal, a plant, that is in the rock record. And these can be anything from bones, shells, teeth. It could be petrified wood. It can even be things like footprints and eggs and anything that's a trace left by an ancient animal.
Wow, very cool. So what do you have to show us today with regards to what we have going on in the Witte Museum?
So we have this summer really special that I think he's going to really enjoy. And the things I wanted to start with is the fact that we're in front of the Nether family dinosaur gallery, where we have all our Texas dinosaurs. We talk about life here in the past in Texas. And of course, our favorites here, Tyrannosaurus Rex, new favorites, I hope. But we also have not just dinosaurs here, we have animals called pterosaurs. Pterosaurs are not dinosaurs. These are the flying reptiles. And you can see back behind me, I think, there's one up in the air there. And it's very special, it's very large. It's called Quetzalcoatlus northropi. And this mount that we have up here is of it flying. Now, what's great about Quetzalcoatlus is this is a Texas pterosaur. It was originally discovered here in Texas in the 1970s. It's been found nowhere else but Texas. And this is also the largest animal to fly. But what we have special here at the Witte, and we're going to walk over here and I'll show you, is we actually have a new mount of Quetzalcoatlus. And it's of it standing.
Wow,
So
that thing is huge. It's a very large animal.
It is extremely large. This is an animal that looks over T-Rex. And T-Rex is not a small animal. And the exciting Quetzalcoatlus is here we are an animal that is a really magnificent flyer. But people always wonder, it's so big, move around on the ground. And this mount that we have here of our standing Quetzalcoatlus shows how an animal this size actually walks. And it turns out these animals are quadrupedal. So they're using their wings as front limbs, and they're walking around. They're not walking around like birds do on two legs, on four. So this is a really exciting mount.
Wow, really cool. Now, I've got to ask, sorry, Dr. Adams, but I've got to ask, you know, would that be its wings that are kind of out to the front like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, if we get up really close here, we can see here is the upper arm bone, the humerus, the lower arm bones, the ulna and the radius. This is actually and these are the bones that we see in our hand. We have 3 fingers down here, and this would be the thumb, the index finger, the middle finger, and then what is the ring finger is this long bone that goes all the way up here, and that's the wing.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, pterosaurs are magnificent animals. And again, they're not dinosaurs, but cousins related to dinosaurs.
Okay, so they weren't around in the
that
same
big. How does
time
it
period
move
then,
around?
I guess, is what you're trying to say there. What time period was this pterosaur around in? Or was it around in the same time period?
Quetzalcoatlus lived here in Texas during the Cretaceous, the end of the Cretaceous, at the same time as Tyrannosaurus rex and some of the other giants that we would have here in Texas, like the giant long-necked sauropod Alamosaurus. So this is at Texas 70 million years ago when we have some of the largest animals ever to walk across Texas, or in this case, fly across Texas.
Wow, and now was this a possible creature that would have been right over San Antonio, or was San Antonio kind of more of a, was it more aquatic then? I know that some areas around the Gulf especially were more aquatic in this time period possibly, but I wasn't sure if this was one animal that would have flown over.
Actually, it may have flown over San Antonio, but at the time, as you correctly pointed out, San Antonio was underwater. So the coastline would have been a little farther west. In fact, the fossils for Quetzalcoatlus and Tyrannosaurus rex and some of these other late Cretaceous dinosaurs all originally are found in Big Bend National Park. So
wow, so that, for those who don't know where that is, that's way off to our west, getting closer towards El Paso, for those who may not know they're at home.
Yeah. So, that's, one of the funny things that we talk about dinosaurs, and not everywhere in Texas looks like it does today. And so when we look for fossils, they're not always found everywhere around Texas. So here in San Antonio, we do find some fossils, but most of the time they're fossils of marine animals, especially shells and things that would have been invertebrate. If we want to find top fossils of things like Quetzalcoatlus or T-Rex, we have to go west.
Nice, and I see a lot of people, Dr. Adams, who are commenting in our Facebook Live. They're saying this is awesome. They're saying hello. Guys, also ask your questions. If you have any questions yourself for Dr. Adams, please send them in. I'd be happy to ask them for you. And Dr. Adams, do we know what kind of food this species would have eaten?
That's another really good question, and we don't know for sure. Some of the things that we think it probably ate was it most likely a carnivore, so it may have hunted smaller animals. Since it could fly to as far away as San Antonio where it was a sea, maybe they were acting like seabirds do today and they were fishing. That's a possibility as well. And it's also thought that they probably would have been something that, like a vulture, fed on things like carrion, so animals that have already died, and took advantage of that as well. So when it comes to the fossil record, some cases it's really hard to tell that. Some dinosaurs, it's easy because we have their teeth. So if they have sharp, pointy teeth, they're obviously meat eaters. If they have blunt, flat teeth, they probably ate plants. But as you can see with this animal, it has no teeth. So we make some good educated guesses based off of what we find in the fossil record.
Nice. And we have a question coming in here. What's the largest dinosaur that's ever been found in Texas?
The
largest species, rather even.
Well, the largest dinosaur, the largest species in Texas is a dinosaur called Alamosaurus. It's a large sauropod. And again, it actually lived at the same time as Quetzalcoatlus here did, the late Cretaceous, 70 million years ago. And this is a dinosaur that we when we find the bones of, they're so big. This is an animal that probably was close to 100 feet long and probably weighed around 60 tons. And it's up there with the top 5 big dinosaurs, and it is the largest dinosaur that we've found in North America.
And is that, oh, that's the largest one in North America? Was it found right here in Texas?
It's found here in Texas as well as throughout the Southwest.
Wow. And was that an animal that would have been walking on land, or was it an animal that was typically found in water?
No, that's actually a quadrupedal dinosaur. It's what we call a sauropod. Sauropods are those long-necked dinosaurs, long necks, long tails, walk around with 4 legs.
Okay, yeah, very cool. Yeah, if kids, if you've ever seen maybe some dinosaur shows, I think we can all relate and remember what that kind of a dinosaur looked like. So very cool, Dr. Adams, thank you so much. And I gotta know, how many types of well, I'm trying to think of the right word here because there's all sorts of different time periods, but I guess what we typically consider dinosaurs, how many different species do y'all have there?
Well, actually, we have about 5 dinosaurs here, but we also have a variety of other animals, including our pterosaurs. So we have Quetzalcoatlus, and we actually have 3 different versions of our Quetzalcoatlus. We have the one that's flying, and we have this one that's standing. We have one that's a life-size reconstruction of it all fleshed out. We also have the largest crocodile. We have a skull of that. The largest crocodile lived at the same time as dinosaurs, and it would have been the size of a school bus. And we also have marine reptiles here, including sea turtles and mosasaurs, as well as some fish. So we have a variety of different prehistoric animals in our Nether family dinosaur gallery.
Wow, and what's your favorite thing about the pterosaur behind you?
Actually, you know, I tell people this, and they get a kick out of this. I think it's the fact that we are talking about something that's so large, but the fact that it really looks dopey looking. You know, it looks like, how can something so bizarre with such a big head, with such a long neck, how could that really live and survive? And it turns out that it was a very successful animal. We find a lot of fossils here in Texas on this pterosaur. And that's, to me, that's just exciting that life is so varied and there are so many wonderful things. And here's an example of an animal that's so big that looks like it would have been really clumsy on ground, but was probably a magnificent flyer soaring through the air. And it doesn't look like it would be that magnificent in the air, but every time I see a heron or a stork flying over the museum, I immediately think pterosaurs and that's how they would have looked. So they're just wonderful.
Nice. And you had mentioned that you had one or one on display where it would be what it looked like with skin and I guess muscles and everything on it as well. Could we possibly see that?
Yeah. So when you enter the front doors of the Witte Museum and come see this, you will be greeted by our Quetzalcoatlus, and we actually refer to this as Quetzal. So he's our first introduction to everybody who comes in Witte. And what's great about this is that here is an animal fleshed out. It's not just the bones, but we also have wonderful animations above it showing how it may have flown as well. So you really get this impact of ancient Texas skies 70 million years ago with giant animals flying across. Wow. Can you imagine being an animal on the ground and having something like that fly over your head?
I think I'd be trying to run into a cave real quick.
I imagine small dinosaurs running, you know, as a giant shadow comes over them.
Yeah, and you know, that's so fascinating to look at it. It almost looks like a large kite.
And that's probably very similar to what they were doing once they got up in enough altitude, and like vultures do today, using the rising hot air, the thermals, they soar and actually glide across the air so that there's a lot of energy. And if you watch vultures, they circle. That's what they're doing. They're circling on those thermals, that hot air rising. taking advantage of that, and that way they're not using a lot of energy. So pterosaurs, specifically giant things like this, are probably doing exactly the same thing, using that hot air rising, saving incredible amounts of energy. And of course, this looks like a really gigantic animal, but we know that its bones were hollow, and as a result, it was probably very lightweight and not as heavy as it looks. So this is an animal that may have only weighed anywhere between 500 to 1,000 pounds. That's big. That's really not a lot.
Wow. So you made a point there, and I got to ask, was it, since this creature did fly over Texas as well, was it hot in Texas while it was still around, while this creature was still around? Because it's hot today. I got to know, was it hot back then too if it was using the thermals so it could fly higher?
Yes, actually, at this point in the Cretaceous, it was very hot. It was probably as hot as it is today. It was also, in this part of Texas where we're finding these fossils, it was also very tropical. So this is a very beautiful area. If you've been to Big Bend National Park in West Texas, today it's the Chihuahuan Desert. And it's got mountains, it's got desert, lots of desert plants. 70 million years ago, when Quetzalcoatlus was flying over it, it would have had beautiful plants, lots of green foliage, really tall tropical trees and palms and ferns, and it would have been very colorful with lots of flowers. It would have been just really a very different world, and it probably looked a lot more like the Everglades of Florida does today, and more like the areas of southern Louisiana, so these marshy types of environments with lots of big trees, lots of green.
Wow, so a lot different from what it's like today. And
Very much.
Dr. Adams, I mean, how deep do you have to dig to get to find one of these pterosaurs in the ground? Like, how deep do you have to dig? Because obviously dirt piles up over time. I got to know how deep do you have to dig to find one of these?
So that's one of the things that's people ask is how do we find fossils? And the first thing I always tell them is like, we don't go out and dig holes. We don't actually randomly start looking, digging in the dirt for things. We have to wait until there's something on the ground. So we let Mother Nature, we let erosion and weathering, the rain and the wind, basically wash away, blow away a lot of the sediment until there's something exposed on the surface. And once it's exposed on the surface, then we know, one, there's something there, but two, it's also not very deep. And so sometimes if it's on the side of a hill or a mountain, we may have to come down quite a ways to get to those, but we typically wait until there's something exposed for us to find it.
Nice, nice. And with the Witte Museum and the current situation that we have with the pandemic, I've got to know, are y'all open right now for tours? And is there anything that people should plan for whenever they come visit?
Absolutely. In fact, I have one of my colleagues here who's actually going to tell us a little bit about all of our wonderful virtual camps and some of our other exhibits. She's much more knowledgeable than I am. So I'm going to turn over to Colleen here to give you a little bit more information.
Cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Adams.
Hi, you guys. My name is Colleen. I am the Director of Public Programs here at the Witte Museum. And as Dr. Adams was saying, we have a lot going on right now. The Witte is all about lifelong learning. So our doors are open, even in the current situation, with many safety measures in place to make sure that it's a safe and fun learning environment for everyone. That we're running. And we do have a virtual dinosaur camp that Dr. Adams helped with coming up on August 10th. So many ways to learn and explore the Witte. And we even just opened up a new exhibit. So if you want to get your Fiesta fix, behind the scenes is now open at the Witte Museum.
Very cool. And you were talking about the virtual dinosaur exhibit. What is that like? What can people expect with that, and how can they access it?
So our virtual dinosaur camps can be registered. You can register for them online. And with the camp, you receive a big box called the Witte Box of Wonders. And inside is packed with all sorts of things that the kids need to have fun for an entire week of activities and content that was curated by our educators here at the museum and by Dr. Adams himself. So lots of fun, and with videos and live Zoom calls and things like that.
Excellent. Colleen, thank you so much. And something really important, you know, with the current situation, I know there's certain guidelines people have to follow. Could you let us, let everyone know, of course, at home, who may be especially newer to San Antonio, where's the Witte Museum located, and what are some things they may have to prepare for before they arrive, considering our current situation?
That's a great question. We are located on Broadway Street near downtown, right next to Brackenridge Park. And we do have some things to expect when you come to the Witte. You'll be greeted by one of our safety ambassadors that will remind you that it's necessary to wear a face covering while on our campus for those ages 10 and up. And then we'll also provide you with your very own stylus. Because here at the museum, we have lots of learning opportunities with touch screens. So instead of using your fingers to experience that, you get to use a stylus and then take this home with you after your visit is over.
Nice, very cool, and a great idea there. So you can continue to learn from all those special exhibits. You know, I'm big on museums. I went to a natural science museum for preschool, so I have a lot of passion for museums myself. Guys, I strongly suggest going out to check out the Witte Museum. Sounds like some really cool exhibits. And Colleen and Dr. Adams, if you're still there, do y'all have anything else you'd like to add before we go ahead and wrap up for today?
Other than we would love to see, you know, all of you at the museum, come on down, learn with us, and come see our standing Quetzalcoatlus in person.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll be coming by myself to check that out. That looks really cool. Thank y'all so much, and we look forward to talking to y'all again in the future.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Nice meeting y'all too. All right, so guys, that wraps up Cloudy with a Chance of Learning for today. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot. That's a lot of fun. You know, a lot to learn there. I do see a question. Could kids from out of town register? Katie, you can find more about that on the Witte Museum's website. Super cool stuff and a lot of fun things to see out there at the Witte Museum. So that wraps up Cloudy with a Chance of Learning for today. I do want to bring up the schedule for the rest of the week, so give me 1 second here. I am loading that up now. We do have some really cool topics as we head throughout 1 p.m. each day. For tomorrow, we are talking about comets. Of course, the comet Neowise can be seen early in the morning right now if you look in the northeast sky. Super cool stuff. Also, Hurricane Harvey, that's going to be the Thursday topic. We're going to talk all about Hurricane Harvey, which it hasn't been too long since that occurred. So I know we'll have a lot of kids who may remember Hurricane Harvey occurring. One of the biggest hurricanes that I can remember when I was growing up, I was about 15, and it was Hurricane Katrina. But of course, Harvey a lot more recent, and we'll have some kids that can remember that one. And then the field trip to the San Antonio Zoo is on Friday. It's another field trip. Should be a lot of fun. I see a thank you from Logan Banks, who is my nephew. No problem, Logan. I hope you had a great time learning today. And guys, we'll continue to keep the learning going throughout the summer. Don't forget, we're going to continue Cloudy with a Chance of Learning all the way through the summer so that the learning doesn't stop. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, and stay cool out there and stay hydrated since it's going to be so hot today with those temperatures rising to 105 degrees, that possible record-breaking heat. Have a great one.